during this time period, I was willing to try anything. The application was waiting for me. And so during this time period, me and my wife at the time made the decision to go to church. And I remember like it was yesterday. I walked into the church and it was during praise and worship. And when I walked in through the front door, it felt like the emotional baggage that I carried around for so long was being let down. It felt like someone came and just said, give me your bags, and placed them on the floor. So I started to relax. And I sat there as everybody was standing up and clapping. And as they were singing praise and worship, I was just looking at how passionate they were about what they believed in. And I paid attention and I allowed myself to be present in a vulnerable space. And in this vulnerable space, I felt so free. I felt so liberated. I felt that right now is the time that I need to make a decision to do the right thing. You see, there's going to be times in our life we're going to have to step up to the plate and make the right decisions. Surely goodness and love will follow us all the days of our life. And so I committed to join the church, and I gave myself to God, and I decided at that moment that I was raw, I was unapologetic, I was very authentic. All I wanted to do was share just the transition and the transcending power that I received. I wanted to give. As soon as I received the power of love, as soon as I received the power of goodness, I wanted to share. It was so strong and immense on me that I had all the courage, all the confidence to share. As soon as I received love, I wanted to give it. Receive it, I wanted to give it because it was so strong. I didn't know how to really to rest in it. So during that time period, I heavily involved myself into the church, and I became a youth pastor, and I was able to connect with the youth. And I realized that there were so many people out there, so many kids, so many youth out there just trying to meet people that wanted to share in goodness, that wanted to share in love. There was so much searching going in their hearts, trying to figure out where they're at, why they're going through what they're going through, why are they in different situations, what do I need to do next? They were their senses, they were open, they were vulnerable, and they were looking for the truth. I had experienced the truth, so I had no other choice but to deliver the truth. And in this deliverance, I was becoming delivered. As I helped, I was being lifted. And this is from a spiritual sense, right? So this leads me to this scripture, Psalms 23. Surely goodness and love will follow me. As I recall, the life that we live in right now, there's so many challenging things that are facing us as a community, as a nation, and as a world. And even inside of us, there's a turmoil that oftentimes presents itself. And it may be difficult to accept the message that surely goodness and mercy will follow us all the days of our life. And it probably is because we don't know what happened prior to that. So let's go explore Psalms 23 together, and let's see why surely and goodness will follow us all the days of our life. Psalms 23:1 reads this: "The Lord is my shepherd, and I shall not be in want." You see, I had to understand for myself that because I trusted in God being my shepherd, and a shepherd protects his sheep. A shepherd oversees his pasture. A shepherd's dedicated job is to just be there for the sheep and guidance and providing and provisions and love and nourishment. That's a shepherd's job. And knowing that the Lord is my shepherd, the understanding, the application of saying that, you know what, God, you are my shepherd. I'm not going to be in deep want, because when I was a child, I was in want for so much. I was in want for an image. I was in want to look good. I was in want to be appreciated. I don't want to want. You're my shepherd. Whatever you provide for me, I'm going to accept. Humbleness. The Lord is my shepherd. Personal acceptance, I shall not want. He maketh me lie down in green pasture. You see, sometimes the sheep need to be led to a place where they can rest. You can't just stray all your life. There's going to come a time where you're going to realize it's time to rest. And you see, the Lord gives such grace where he maketh, and that maketh is not always the best feeling, Being forced to rest is not always the best feeling. Having a situation in your life that happens that creates this sense of trauma and awareness and pain and suffering, but it puts you in a position to rest and to sit down and to recall. It may not feel good, but trust me, you may need to rest. He maketh me lie down in green pastures, and the pastures is where the feeding comes from. That's interesting. The rest. He leadeth me beside quiet waters. The stillness, the peace. It's because I'm following God. He's providing me and showing me, giving me a sense of awareness. Over here is peace. Over here is peace. If I choose to follow him, if I choose to be vulnerable enough to be present in how I feel, and to trust that he's going to give me the peace even in my suffering, he leadeth me next to still, not choppy, but still waters. See, my life was full of waves. But when I started to follow God, I realized that, yes, I'm going to experience hard times, but I'm also going to experience pure peace and quiet waters, even in the time of storm. He guideth me in the path of righteousness. He gave me a path. He showed me what right looks like. This is what you need to do. It's an utterance in your heart. You know what you need to do. So what's holding you back? What's holding you back from doing the right things? Even though, now we're at verse 6, where we started from. So, one, we had to understand that the Lord is our shepherd. We should not be in want. He make us lie down. He lead us next to calm waters, quiet waters. He restores. Restoration. You've been going through a lot. You've been experiencing a lot. You want to be restored. He provides that. Inside, that inward perspective. Sometimes we have to search within ourselves, and we have to find that we need rest. So we have to open up our senses and our portals and our love and say, please give us the rest, and pay attention and let him lead. In the quiet meditations of our heart, let him lead. In the stillness of our thoughts, still quiet our thoughts, like the calming waters, lead. That's restoration. He provides restoration. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, he's letting us know that we're going to go through times where it's the valley, the low parts of our life, trauma, pain, hurt, loss, tragedy. All these different things are like the valley experience. Even though we walk through the valley of the shadow of death, meaning it's lurking, it seems to be pressing on us, that feeling of I'm not going to make it, I'm not going to be able to get through this, this is a tragedy time, I don't know what I'm going to do, I feel this is too much. I will feel no evil. That's what it says. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I won't fear evil. That's a choice. He's saying, I won't fear evil. I choose not to fear. Even in my vulnerable spaces where I want to run and hide, I choose not to fear. I accept I am not going to fear. I'm not going to run away from my fear. I'm going to face it head on. I'm going to look it right in the eye. I'm going to embrace it, because the truth behind the fear is truth. Love, wholeness, growth, family, connection. I will fear no evil. For you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. They protect me in the time of trouble. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemy. And even as we slow down to consider this, and I recall, and this is the place where I want to say, sometimes it's important to go back to your youth. Go back to the moments of your youth. Recall what you've been through, because sometimes you're carrying thoughts that didn't happen. You're carrying the thoughts, but the reality didn't happen. But you've been carrying it for so long time. You've been carrying these emotions for a long time. And you've been going through this valley a long time. And you've been fearing a lot. You're not speaking up. You're not being yourself. You're not being true to yourself for a long time. But you have to understand that once you find this period of rest and take a look up, and you relax and you breathe and you know that he's your God, and you look up, you'll realize that he prepared. He already provisioned for you. There's a place provisioned for you. And sometimes that place can be found in your heart. As you realize and you go through the turmoils and the stress and you move them away, because everything like an emotion comes and goes, You'll start to look at your heart and the condition of your heart and the health and the restoration of your heart, how he created you. Your mind can be utilized to create so many positive thoughts, so many great solutions, so many great ideas. That's the preparation that he put on the table for you to choose these different things. He prepares a table before me in the presence of my enemy. This enemy is the opposition, adversary. Yes, adversity is going to come your life. He may never remove your enemy, but he has a table prepared for you. He's already given you what you need. He's prepared it. He took the time. But once you get to that place where you can assess the things that's prepared for you and utilize the things that are prepared for you in the presence, you don't got to run and hide in the presence of the enemy. And realize that the next scripture goes, you anoint my head with oil and my cup overflows. So this is where we're about to transition to the end. So the last step is he anoints our head with oil. In scripture, oil means the power. He anoints our head. The head leads you. The head guides you. He gives us power and influence in our head. Our head will get us out of our situations. You've been sometimes stuck in your situation, but he's giving you the power and the influence in your head. In your head, he anoints your head. Let that pass. Just like those emotions, just like those feelings, just like those lies, just like that trauma, I had to let it pass because I realized that he's anointed my head. He's influenced me with power. He's given me power in my head. Influence. That word power means to influence in my head. He anoints my head with oil. And because of that, because I realize I have the influence, because I know I have the power, because I know that my mind can allow me to get out of so many situations, my cup running over. It's immense. It's so much that I'm overjoyed because I know I'm an overcomer. Yes, I've been through a childhood where my story was it was traumatic and bad. But guess what? The next scripture says, surely goodness and mercy and love will follow me all the days of my life. So that truth means this. Even when I was a kid, goodness and mercy was there. Because he anointed my head with oil and gives me the new perspective of thinking, I can look back at my youth and say, you know what? I may have thought that my parents weren't there, but there was times that they were there. They can give me those small amount of goodness, that small amount of love. And because of those small amounts, I'm thanking them for that because they didn't have to do that. Yes, there are people in your life right now that you may not have been aware when you were growing up or at a young age or in the trauma that you experienced. But when you slow down and you realize that you have the power and the influence over your life and a tremendous growth, you can realize and see that surely goodness and mercy has followed you all the days of your life, and you're dwelling in the house of the Lord. That's the rest. That's the sanctuary. That's the peace forever and ever. Thank you guys for participating in this journey. Thank you for opening up your heart and your mind. Thank you for being a present, because your presence is a present to me. So continue to assess the vulnerable spaces in your life. Vulnerability can be found through the accessible points, and have the courage to be present, to be aware, to assess and make good decisions, and realize that surely goodness and love will follow you and already has followed you all the days of your life. Create clarity, you guys, in all that you do. And I hope you guys stay blessed.